Hey guys, Ike here from Mike'sOutdoors.com. Today I want to talk to you guys about picking out your broadhead. I didn't realize my beer was in the picture. But it's really hot. I know you guys will excuse me for having a beer. There's a couple things that I want to talk about right off the bat when it comes to picking broadheads. One, when you pick your broadhead out, broadhead tune your bow to the broadhead. Don't move your sights to the broadhead. We'll put a link right here to a broadhead tuning video to show you how to do that. So always tune your bow to your broadheads. Don't just move your sights to make your broadhead hit where you want it to. The second thing is, it's pretty much common sense, but some people don't know. Some people are beginners. The grain weight of your broadhead, if you're shooting a 100 grain field point, is going to be the exact same grain weight of broadhead you're going to need to shoot. So if you got your bow all tuned and you switch to a 125 grain broadhead from 100 grain, it's not going to fly right. You're going to get probably some droppage in there. So get into the different types of broadheads. You got a couple different types. This is what you would call a fixed blade or a replaceable blade broadhead. This is actually a Grizz trick made by Slick Trick. Muzzy will fall into that category as well. Also, you've got stuff like this Twister or Cyclone from Toxic, or from Flying Arrow Archery. You guys are going to think I've had 6 or 7 beers if I keep talking like this. So those are your fixed blade or replaceable blade broadheads. Whenever you shoot these through something, you tear them up like this Muzzy. It's been through quite a bit of stuff and got bent blades on it. You just take the blades out and you put new ones in. And it's fixed blade, replaceable blade. So that's kind of a standard broadhead. A lot of them out there on the market. The next one you got here is called a cut-on contact head. This is it's a Magnus something. I can't even remember what it's called, but buzz cut. This is a Magnus buzz cut. This one here is actually a dirt nap broadhead. And what these are, they call them a cut on contact because as soon as they hit flesh, they start cutting. Sometimes these are called 2-blade cut on contact heads. Sometimes they're called 4-blade. And they're called a 4-blade because they've got bleeders on the side. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But this is a cut on contact head, and what this means is as soon as it hits flesh or as soon as it hits something, it's going to start cutting. Unlike these, as soon as they hit, they've got a pointed tip or a trocar tip or whatever you want to call it. They don't actually have blades out to the very end. So these are a cut on contact head or traditional head because they look a lot like some of the stone heads and steel heads used back when bows were new, which was, I don't know, a couple million years ago probably. So those are your traditional heads or your cut on contact heads. The other kind of head we've got here is an expandable head. Got a couple different designs here. This one's actually a turkey head, but it's a good example of a expandable head. What these are is they look like an elongated field point, but you can see it's got blades on the side. And an expandable head is going to do just that. When it hits something, like this one here, for example, it will hit, and the flesh or bone or target or whatever you're shooting will hit this part right here, and this is a turkey head, so it's a little hard to open up. But it will actually hit that, and it will cause this blade to deploy. So it'll hit, all 3 of these blades will expand, and you'll have that when you're done. And those are supposed to be tuning free, but I still think a tuning a bow, broadhead tuning a bow is an excellent idea. I do it to my 3D bows. Even though I know I'm not going to be shooting broadheads out of them, I still broadhead tune my bows. So that's an expandable head. It's going to fly like this, and when it hits, it's actually going to expand open. That one is an NAP Kill Zone, I believe. This one is an Almer Edge, and this one has a little bit different. It's got a band on here that holds the blades together, and when it hits, the blades deploy, just like that, and the band will actually either slide back or the band will break. I'm going to actually slide it back to see if I can keep from breaking it. But this one will hit and the blades will actually come out and they'll actually lock open. These ones, once they're open, they can swivel, but they shouldn't close again. So that's an Almer Edge. But both of those are examples of an expandable broadhead. And these actually, I'm going to cut myself on that. Now the last thing we got here is a hybrid. And what this one is a little bit of everything. This one has a cut on contact or a traditional head look to it. But it looks like a 2-blade cut on contact head, but it's got a tip on it like a replaceable blade or a fixed blade, and it does in fact have replaceable blades on it. It also is an expandable. When this one hits, it's going to actually open up, and you can see it's going to open up to a 2-inch cutting diameter. So you got a real narrow flight when it's in the air. You got a real small surface, and once it hits, it expands and it actually opens up to a larger cutting diameter. Now, the advantage to these is if it doesn't open up, like say one of the expandables over here, this one's still going to cut, and you still got as much cutting diameter with it that you do with one of these traditional heads here. It's got the same cutting diameter, pretty close, as the dirt nap head, and the same cutting diameter as the buzz cut. So if it doesn't open up, you still got the same amount of cutting diameter as a traditional head. Now, each one of these broadheads has its advantages and it has its disadvantages. The advantage of these type of heads is because they start cutting instantly. This is a cut on contact head. Because they start cutting instantly, they're going to have a little bit better penetration, and they're going to be a little bit better for lower kinetic energy bows. My wife, or someone who is shooting, say, below 50 pounds, I would definitely recommend a cut on contact head for someone shooting low kinetic energy. It just takes less energy to force that head through there when it's cutting than it does one that's got a tip on it that's not cutting. So it takes a little less kinetic energy to push these through there, and you get a good cutting diameter with these. Tuning these broadheads now really isn't all that difficult like it used to be. Some of the older ones were kind of a pain to tune. And this dirt nap here has actually been through a hog, so that's why it's all dirty and beat up. But and the hog that I shot with it did an awesome job on it. So if you're shooting lower kinetic energy, this is the type of broadhead you're going to want to shoot. For most of us out there shooting high kinetic energy, and most of us are probably shooting 60 pounds to 70 pounds draw length, and we're probably pushing anywhere from 60 to 80 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. Pick the broadhead you want, go get it, because any of them are going to work for you. Pick the one that suits your animal the best. If you're shooting elk, you're going to want something for elk and for heavy bone. So it's important to know your kinetic energy, and you can actually just do a Google search on kinetic energy calculator, and you can find out your kinetic energy just by putting in the speed of your bow and the weight of your arrow. So if you're shooting high kinetic energy, probably 60 to 80, which 80 is pretty high, but I do have a bow that's actually shooting 79 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. You can actually shoot whichever one of these heads you want. The advantage of the replaceable blade broadheads is, as long as the ferrule is okay, you can actually just continue to shoot these things. You can see this saber tooth and this dirt nap, which I can probably sharpen both of them up and get them back into the original, back to being cutting razor sharp. This Grizz trick, when I want to take it, and after I shoot something with it and I want to make it sharp again, all I got to do is pop the head loose, pull the blades out, pop new blades in there, and I'm good to go. As long as the ferrule on these is in good shape, I can continue to put new blades in this, and I can continue to use them without ever having to resharpen them or anything like that. I can keep replacement blades with me, and I can actually change the blades on these things while I'm on a trip or out in the field. So I could actually do it no problem out in the field. The other advantage too is, if you got a broadhead like this and it has a really fine tip on it, you can see this buzz cut is actually curled back. If that hits bone, the tip of them generally want to curl up on you. You got a tip like this, they have a little bit more of an advantage of getting through bone. So they have a little bit more of a tendency to break through bone, where this one has a little bit more of a tendency to hit bone and try to slice through it. And it's going to take more energy to slice through it than it is to try to break through it. So the advantages to these is replaceable blades. You can put new blades in at any time, anywhere, pretty much. And you're going to have a little bit better damage if you hit bone with these. The advantage to a expandable broadhead is you don't have to tune your bow. That's the one advantage that I see to an expandable broadhead. Now, I still recommend that you tune your bow. You still recommend you broadhead tune your bow, because a bow, to me, you'll notice a difference in a bow that's broadhead tuned versus one that is not. You will get better flight out of your arrows, better efficiency, and you'll get better kinetic energy out of a bow that is broadhead tuned. Is it going to be a drastic amount? No, probably not. But this is for the guy who is in a hurry, the guy who doesn't know how to tune. You know, if you don't have a shot close to you, I shouldn't say that as a guy who don't know how to tune, but a guy who's never learned how to tune and don't have a shop close, this is a good alternative for you guys versus these other type of broadheads, because you can take this thing out there, you can get pretty good flight out of it immediately. You may have to move your sights just a little bit, but you can get pretty good flight out of it immediately, and be ready to go hunting. The one disadvantage to these is some of them take a lot of kinetic energy to open up. This one purposely takes a lot of kinetic energy to open up because you don't want a complete pass-through on a turkey. But it's kind of, is it Newton's law, everything that can go wrong will go wrong? You got more moving parts on these things. So if there's been instances where mechanical heads have not opened up. There's been instances where you just didn't have enough kinetic energy, because when they hit, the blades will rob you of a little bit of energy and a little bit of momentum when they're going into the animal. So there is instances that I've heard, and I've read horror stories and heard horror stories about people shooting animals with a head like this and the blade not producing a hole bigger than a field point because the blades didn't open up. There's actually a story of a cameraman who got shot with a expandable broadhead. I'm not going to get into the whole story, but he got shot with an expandable broadhead, and only 2 of the 3 blades opened up and hit him right in the neck. And a third blade, if it would have opened up, would have cut his jugular. But he got really lucky that blade didn't open up. So there are times when these can fail you. I mean, like I said, Newton's law, anything that can go wrong will go wrong, and more moving parts equal more of a chance of having something go wrong. But for you guys who are in a hurry, or you guys who don't have the ability to tune your bow and don't have someone access to someplace that can tune it for you, these are an excellent choice for you guys. Just make sure you're pushing enough kinetic energy and to take these things down. Now, I don't recommend these for anything with heavy bone like hog. Now, there's guys out there who have shot these into hogs and stuff like that, and they've done fine on them. So if you came and asked me what to shoot for something with heavy bone or a large animal like hogs, elk, things like that, I don't recommend an expandable. I recommend something more like the cut on contact or the replaceable blades, fixed blade broadheads. Expandable broadheads, they do have their place, and it's mostly for guys who are in a hurry or don't have the opportunity to tune your bow. That's where I think that they really fall in and are useful in that situation. Now, I've hunted with them and I like them, and they do all right, but that's kind of the disadvantage to those. Now, the hybrid has the advantages of all of them and the disadvantages of all of them. You get a very large cutting diameter when this thing opens up. Again, it's got moving parts. There may be something that gets in here and you don't notice it. You can see this one's been shot into the ground. It's got mud on it. It could have mud back here, and when it hits, it just may not open up all the way. It's got moving parts to it, and it's got the same disadvantage that the expandable head is going to have to it. But it's got the advantage of, if it doesn't open up, it's still going to cut. It's still going to give you something better than a small hole like the field point would produce. The other advantage it's got is, advantage and disadvantage, is it has the type of tip on here that if you hit bone, it's probably going to bust through it. And instead of just curling back, it's going to bust the bone rather than try to slice through it. So it's going to give you that advantage. But it is going to also rob you of a little momentum when it hits. This one is another good example of, if you're shooting a shooting between 60 to 80 foot-pounds of kinetic energy, this is an excellent choice for broadhead. If you're shooting lower than that, you probably want to steer away from this. The other disadvantage to this one is it does have a replaceable blade, but the way this particular head is set up, this NAP Blood Runner, is you're not going to be able to take this apart in the field. At least I wouldn't want to. You can replace the blades in the field, but I wouldn't really want to do it. I guess it could be done, but you can take the blades and replace them with brand new ones. I've actually got several of these, and some of them have brand new blades on them, and they're ready to go to the woods. So that's the advantage of these. You got advantages and disadvantages to these. The broadhead that I use most, and the broadhead that I just continually keep going back to, is a cut-on contact broadhead like this one. I don't have a lot of instances where I hit bone, and even when I do, 99% of the time when I shoot something, it's a whitetail. And a whitetail in my area aren't real large body. So if I hit a bone on a whitetail around here, average going to field dress 100 to 125 pounds, maybe even upward of 150 to 175. If I hit bone with this and I'm producing 60 to 80 foot-pounds of kinetic energy, I'm still going to go right through it. but I've used that head, and that's the one I recommend the most. And I recommend that for just about anybody. You can't go wrong with this head. It's been around since the dawn of the bow, and I don't think if it didn't work, it wouldn't still be around. We would have come up with something better, and they would have stopped making these a long time ago. So I think that the 2-blade cut-on contact head is about the best out there. Now, the fixed blade, replaceable blades definitely have their place. I've hunted with some of these in the past, and I've had great success with them, and I've made bad shots, I've made good shots with them, and I've still had good success with them. When you make a shot on bone, they tend to go through and they tend to do a lot of damage to the bone. When you make a marginal shot, and yes, I've made some marginal shots with these. They got 4 blades on them, 3 to 4 blades, and usually they got a good cutting diameter, and you're going to get a lot of damage done with a head like this. A buddy of mine shot a hog with this, actually one of these slick tricks, Riz tricks, and the hole it made in him was very, very impressive. I mean, the hog turned right as he shot, and he caught it back here, and the hole he made in this thing, even though he didn't hit nothing vital, he still got a marginal shot. That hog was going to die. We were able to actually find it, and Corey was able to put a bullet in him. But that hog was going to die. He was definitely hurting pretty bad. So there definitely is a spot for these right here, and tons of people have used them, and tons of people have had success with them. The replaceable blades is a big advantage to them because you don't have to worry about trying to resharpen them or do anything like that. You just put new blades in there. The hybrid, the mechanicals, well, they have their place, I guess, but I'm not a big fan of the mechanicals, and most of the time for most people, if you come up and ask me, I'm not going to recommend a mechanical. I mean, they are decent broadheads, and as you can see, I own a few, but they're just, I like to keep things simple, and I like to keep as little problem, as little chance of a problem, something going wrong as I possibly can. So that's kind of why I steer away from a mechanical head. Now, this hybrid head, I've had excellent luck with this hybrid head. If you're shooting enough kinetic energy to make sure this thing's going to open up, this Blood Runner is an awesome head. I actually shot a hog with this, and he was kind of quartering to me, and I hit through bone, and it actually came out this side and made a really long hole on this side, and it did an awesome job on penetration, and when it hit, it did expand, and it opened up, and I mean, it cut a massive hole. And when we rolled him over, the cut on this side, his lung actually was hanging out of the hole. So that is a massive head. 2-inch cutting diameter. I mean, you can't, if it opens up, that's going to put a huge hole in an animal. So, and I've shot hogs, I've shot deer, I've shot all kinds of stuff with this. So, I know this video has been kind of long, and I hope you've been able to follow me on all this stuff. There are advantages and disadvantages to every broadhead out there. But if I had to pack everything up right now and only pick one broadhead to go around the world and hunt with, and I could only pick one style of broadhead to take, it would be probably one of these right here. I feel confident that I can shoot this 2-blade cut-on contact head like this dirt nap into any animal on the planet, and I can kill it. Now, expandable, definitely not. I definitely would not be loading that up and going around the world and hunting with that. The fixed blades, if I couldn't take one of these, I guess I would settle for a fixed blade. But if I was to go, like I said, just pack up right now, pack your stuff, grab one broadhead, and let's go hunting, this would be what it would be right here. And it actually would be this particular brand, this Dirt Nap. These are just really badass broadheads. So, hopefully I've answered a few questions, and this actually came to me as a question from Jennifer. So I appreciate it, Jennifer, and hopefully I helped you figure out what broadhead to choose. I know it's confusing, and hopefully I've narrowed it down for you. So for more product reviews, how-to videos, you can check out our website, ikesoutdoors.com. Appreciate you guys watching.